unlocking your world of creativity with best-selling author and brand innovator, Mark Stinson. This episode is brought to you by White Cloud Coffee Roasters, where every bean tells a story of adventure. Visit whitecloudcoffee.com and use the code CREATIVITY.
Welcome back, friends, to our podcast, Your World of Creativity, where we like to travel around the world talking to creative practitioners everywhere about how they get inspired and how they organize ideas, and most of all, how they gain the confidence and the connections to launch their work out into the world. And I'm so happy today to have a guest, Gail Straub. She's the author of Home Inside the Globe. It's a memoir about her life and travel, activism, empowerment, creative exploration. It's a wide-ranging book, and I'm so glad to have you today, Gail. Welcome to the show.
Mark, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I love this title, Home Inside the Globe. The world is ours. We live here, but all the life experiences that you've had. And I guess to start with, a lifetime of your travels across so many cultures and so many projects, what does home mean to you now?
That's a wonderful question. I think home has two poles. The local home. So I've lived here in the Hudson Valley for 44 years in the same home, in the same mountain valley. And I've written several books about that. So I feel very at home in my local home. But also the idea of the book, of course, Mark, is that I think our larger home is the globe. And when we venture out and we meet someone in Nepal or Jordan or China or Ireland, and we feel like that person's a kindred spirit, suddenly we feel at home there also. So for me, there's the local home and the global. But I feel at home in both of them.
That's so good. I love to travel, as we've talked, and I hope that people who do like to travel have the same experience you do. And I feel like you're connecting with people, that you're at a coffee shop, you're enjoying a conversation with maybe somebody at the table next to you. Some people like to go see the sights and just ride the double-decker bus, and that's all good too. But it seems like that personal connection is important to you.
Yeah, I feel, you know, what I love about travel, Mark, is it's spontaneous. It's not planned. Who you encounter, often they're surprise encounters, not what you expected. And you're sitting there, there's a whole chapter on China, and I spent a lot of time in China for about 10 years. And you're sitting there with a person who seemingly is so different than you. Their language is different, perhaps. Their cultural values are different. But to your point, let's say we're sitting in a tea house in Beijing, and we start talking, and we realize the things that are really important: family, our communities, what we do for our work, how we learn, our education, all those deep things are the same. And so there's a kind of sense that we are a big old human family. And what I love from the book is, for me, quote, I put in quotes, the more different the culture, the more fascinated I am, the more I learn. Because for me, there's a whole chapter when I crossed the Sahara Desert, talk about a different environment. But I learned so much from the indigenous people in the Sahara. And I learned so much from the people in India and the people in Morocco. So I have this concept that we become more whole, more full as we encounter different kinds of people and places and landscapes and music and food and all those wonderful things.
Yes. And I had a sense that this book was not just a typical travel log, a book. Certainly your personal stories are in it, But did the process of writing, now we're getting into your creative process, did the process of writing help you integrate these certainly outer journeys with your inner journey?
Oh, that's really the key point for me. You've struck on what to me is the reason I'm happy that I wrote this memoir. It wasn't easy. It took 8 years or so. And as we mentioned, it's a long arc of my life. But the process, to your question, Mark, the process of examining my life and the 12 cultures that shaped me as a human being. So the book starts girl, and then it goes woman, and then it goes crone. And in the girl part, the young, when I'm young, I'm still being formed by the cultures. But then as I enter womanhood, I take form. And then as I become older, as an older woman, as a crone, I pass on what I've learned. And the process of writing allowed me to understand my life. I know it's a bit corny, but it actually, at first, I wanted to write a bunch of travel essays. And my editor said to me, sorry, kiddo, this really is a heroine's journey. You're describing how you grew to become a whole person through the influence of these 12 cultures. And that's a kind of heroine's journey. So that was a lot harder to write. But to your point, Mark, it was the writing over the course of the 8 years that allowed me to understand how I became who I am.
And one of the aspects of who you've been is this idea of empowerment, even founding an empowerment institute
Yeah.
in 1981. And so I was curious again over these travels and over these years, how the definition of empowerment might have evolved for you,
Mm.
particularly with working with women in so many different places and cultures.
Yes. So my husband and I, we were young whippersnappers in 1981, and we founded this institute on a wing and a prayer. And we basically, was long before computers, we basically designed this institute at our kitchen table with yellow pads and pencils and
Of
so forth.
course.
But then we didn't have any idea how this would unfold, but we felt it was our purpose in life. It was what we were called to do and how we could serve. And it started all over the United States, and we learned so much. And then it branched out to Europe, and we continued to learn. And then what happened, Mark, was somewhere we were maybe 25 or 30 years into it. So we knew that this methodology could really help people live the lives they wanted. The little tagline was dare to dream and then change the world and stuff like that. But the real teachers came from very far away. The teachers who changed our concept of empowerment and expanded it. So we began to have, especially women from NGOs in Afghanistan, in India, in the Middle East, in Africa. And of course, their lives were very different than ours. Some ways the same, like we talked about before. The love of family and all those kinds of things were essentially the same. But the difficulties of their lives were something that taught us a lot. And then what they said to us, Mark, is at first we were surprised. Why are they coming here? What could they learn from us? We're here in the Hudson Valley. We have our life here. And then they began to say to us, it's a 4-day training that basically takes a person through their life, asks them to analyze their dreams and their visions, what they really want, what they feel is stopping them from getting that. So in a nutshell, It's a training on human agency. And these people said to us from Kabul and New Delhi and Moscow and Beijing, Gail and David, what gives you agency as a woman living in New York and the Hudson Valley might be different than what gives me agency living in Kabul, Afghanistan. However, believe it or not, the methodology you created works for us just as well as it works for you. And so they translated our work into many languages, maybe 14 different languages, Hindi and Arabic and so forth. But what was fascinating, Mark, was that these essential human principles on how to live an empowered life, a life that's more loving, more kind, a life that takes me towards my dreams, allows me to serve my community. I want that, and that they want that. And they began to translate the principles. For example, many of them couldn't read. They were illiterate. Some of them had grown up in profound hardship. In India, we worked with women born into brothels, so sold into sex trafficking at 10 years old. Believe it or not, this is why we learn so much from these people. Those women, in spite of their extraordinarily difficult lives, still had dreams and still wanted to fulfill their dreams and be more loving human beings. All of this is to say, to answer your very wonderful question, the definition of empowerment didn't change so much, but the application kept getting wider and wider. So in the refugee camps in Jordan, we did a lot of work in Moscow during the Gorbachev years, and in many small villages in all over Africa. So this is where this human family idea comes to visit us again, Mark.
Mm.
So what I at first thought, this word empowerment, which was our life calling and still is, I thought, how could this possibly be helpful to people in remote, disenfranchised corners of the world? But it was helpful to them in the same way it was helpful to you and I.
Yes,
And that was revelatory.
that sounds great. And this idea, now I understand a bit more about the name and the idea behind your Imagine initiatives and programs, that you're really thinking about those dreams. But first, I think about your programs as an activism, but there's as much optimism as activism, it sounds like. What role does this compassion and imagination concept play in this idea of sustaining optimism, perhaps?
Yes, your questions they're like bullseyes, because we always saw empowerment as interior and exterior. That if we work on our self-empowerment inside ourselves, our spiritual journey, our journey towards wholeness, that interior empowerment, we could say that agency, motivates us to become more active in our communities and make the world a better place. And conversely, so for us, empowerment was always, we did a self-exploration in service of a better world, a better family, a better business, a better community. So we could not, my husband David and I could not imagine empowerment with both the interior journey, but also the exterior component of service. For us, empowerment is those two halves. And the book talks a lot about how I took my own interior journey to become a more aware, more compassionate person. And that allowed me to be a better activist out in the world. But you're also asking me about creativity, and I know that's your great arena of knowledge. And I want to say a couple things about that, if I could. I feel that one of the things I learned from these 12 cultures that are talked about in the book, actually, creativity is a birthright. And there were certain cultures that I talk about in the book, particularly Bali. I spent a lot of time on the island of Bali, part of Indonesia. And they taught, so the people there, and it's still true today, they paint, they dance, they write, they carve, and many of them do more than one form. And when I asked my teachers there, tell me about creativity, they said, Gail, it's interesting because in the Balinese language, creativity there's no word for it. We consider it like breathing, and we come in and we're born and we know we're creative. And that changed me, Mark. I said to myself, creativity isn't something I have to learn or search for or try hard for. If I listen closely within myself, I know my creative impulses. I feel for many of us, our deepest creative impulses came very young. So as a kid, we love to garden, or we love to do drama, or we love to paint, or we love to write, or you choose whatever it is. And and as children, we were so fresh and unspoiled, that poise, and undefended, and all those sorts of things. So I always say to people, a lot of people ask me, how do I reconnect with my creativity? And I invite them to quiet themselves, think back as a kid, what did you really love to do? What just lit you up? And they always know, Mark. They always know. It's alive inside them. And so I suggest go back to that, consider that. And when I used to take groups to Bali, it was a teaching. They were teaching pilgrimages. And the idea was that each person on that pilgrimage would reconnect with their creativity. And it was so beautiful. So people who love to sing would go back to singing. People who love it was where I reconnected with my longing to write. And so I always say to people, first, it's a birthright. Secondly, you have the imprint inside you, the longing inside you. And then I also say, trust your instincts. Trust what your heart tells you. If your heart tells you, wow, I want to cook more, I want to be around children more, be around children more. And then I also always suggest that we get a kind of support group for creativity. That could be a writer's group or a cooking group or just a group of other people who also want to create more. So that's contagious. We don't have to take that journey alone. So those are some of the things I think
These are
about.
fantastic. Wonderful. My guest is Gail Straub, and she's the author. Her latest book is called Home Inside the Globe. What a great title. Before I ask a kind of impact of your work question, Gail, maybe this is a good time to let listeners know how to connect with you, learn more about the book, learn more about your work. Where's the best place for us to connect with you?
Yeah, the best place is so easy. It's my website. No surprise there. www.gailstraub, STRAUB.com. And that has all the events, more than they'll ever want. Lots of recordings, all the podcasts I've been on, exercises. And that's connected. If they just go on gailstraub.com, they can connect to the Empowerment Institute, which gives them also lots of fun things they can do, books, exercises. The book is readily available. Both books are Kindles and on audio. And we give a lot of good stuff away for free, too.
That's-
Because we want people to have this information.
It's very empowering, and you're very gracious to do that. As we think about this is where you're going with, we want people to have the work and the resources, but I wanted to put it in context maybe of legacy or springboards for future change makers. You've described in the book these three stages, the girl, the woman, now the crone, and you're positioning the word crone a lot more positively than maybe I have heard the word
Yeah.
before. But
Yeah.
thinking about this third chapter, the impact that we can have later in life. As a silver-haired graybeard myself, I often think about this, that all the whippersnapper years, like when you founded your foundation, have passed, but the future impact could still be there. How does this affect your creativity, your work and purpose today?
Wow, you ask really good questions, I got to tell you. Yes, my editor and I struggled a bit with the word crone, but then we said, no, let's go with it. It's a archetypal word that
It
means
is.
it's a wisdom keeper. I feel, Mark, I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm 76 years old, and I feel more creative than ever.
Wow.
And I feel that, at least for me, I can only speak for myself, but I have many dear friends my age who are also creatives. Many of us feel these can be the most creative years of our life because the heavy lifting of midlife is past. Ideally, if we're still in good health, if we're blessed with good health, we have more time and space. And I think what I feel in my own creative life, because I'm writing full time now, I'm finishing up another book. I've got two more inside my brain. I feel that I bring, again, it might sound a bit corny. I bring a wisdom and a depth now. It's just the length of life. Having lived, in my case, 7 decades or whatever, I can view life with more depth, more length, more time. But it's not just as a writer. I speak to musicians about this and painters. I live in a community that's full of creative kinds of people. And my painter friends, well into their 80s, I'll give an example. Mary Frank is a very well-known painter. She's into her 80s. She tells us, I was at a lecture with her recently. She said, I am doing the best work of my life now because I've calmed down. I have no ego things. I have nothing to prove. I've already done that. That part was in midlife. Now I simply want to create with the time, with the years that I'm blessed still to have. Another friend is a musician and a composer, and he told me the same thing. He said, I'm making the best music I've ever made. So I feel that as wisdom keepers, there's a depth and a freedom in our creativity that we might not have had in our earlier years. Once again, it has a lot to do with, I think it's appropriate in the middle phase that we're trying to prove ourselves. That's a good thing. It shows motivation and an aspiration for
That's right. A certain drive. Yes.
It's good. It's good. It's healthy. But then I think, at least in my view, there's a moment when that no longer serves our creativity. There's a different kind of creativity trying to be born. And I'm very excited about my creative life
Wow.
at this time.
It's awesome. And you've described a new tribe that I'm going to join. That's the Wisdom Keepers. I like it. I like it.
Yes, you don't believe
Find others
we
like
need
us.
them. We need them, Mark.
That's right. I love it. Gail, what a wonderful conversation, and congratulations on the new book, Home Inside the Globe, and all the other. This is the latest in what, 8 books that you've been able to publish and all the other great work. So congrats on all that, and keep on keeping on, will you?
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for this wonderful, lively conversation today.
It's been wonderful. And I want to thank our sponsor, White Cloud Coffee, for helping fuel creative conversations like this. Listeners, you can enjoy 10% off your first order at whitecloudcoffee.com. Just use the code creativity at checkout. And of course, don't forget to come back for our next episode. We'll continue these round the world conversations like we've had with Gail today. We love talking to creative practitioners in all parts, musicians and painters, singer-songwriters and architects. We all can apply our creativity in different ways and have an inspiration and an impact in different ways. So come back again soon. Until then, I'm Mark Stinson, and we'll keep unlocking your world of creativity. Bye for now.